Welcome to the Fifth Estate, a conversation between young African scholars from the Fort Hall School of Government and Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. Today we send a letter to our tribal leaders of the opposition. Greetings to you, leaders of opposition tribes. We write to you because we are all liars. Deep within, we are tribal. But during elections, we pretend to be Kenyan. We become part of a clinical lie to cover our tribal deceit. We all suffer from a multiple personality disorder. In the light, we are citizens of Kenya. Within the dark cocoons of the night, where we are comfortable, we become citizens of the tribe. We need to liberate ourselves from this disorder, and we should do it by going back to the Lancaster Covenant of the 1960s. This was a tribal negotiation. Our nation was built on the recognition that it was a patchwork of tribes, and the founding fathers did not shy away from this reality. The question to you, tribal leaders, is therefore this: why the pretense?
As Kenyans, we suffer from a multiple personality disorder. During the day, we are civic citizens, but at night when we retreat into our ethnic cocoons, we degenerate into ethnic citizens. And this is the duality of our existence. We have two citizenships, and there is no point pretending otherwise. This is why we should return to the naked truth of the Lancaster Covenant of the 1960s. As they wrote this covenant in the 1960s, our founding fathers were naked. They had no pretense. They knew they were tribal, all right, but they celebrated our differentness. Instead of burying our ethnicity, they removed their surgical knives and painfully dissected it. The result was a Lancaster Covenant, a covenant of tribal truths that has kept this country intact to date. And this is why we are writing to the underground leaders of our tribes. We are asking them to come to the surface and to get naked. Emulate our founding fathers in their nakedness as they discussed tribe. Let them negotiate openly and in truth, and not in the dark as underground operatives. They must be told that there is nothing wrong with the tribe. What we do with the tribe is where we go wrong.
Before we dispatch our letter to the tribal leaders of opposition, we need to comment on two things. The first is the recent corruption index on Kenya by International Conspiracy, or whatever they call them. Raila told us that we had joined the Corruption Super League because of this conspiracy index. I would have bought the index if all the researchers at Conspiracy International were not opposition activists. These voodoo scientists are funded to pimp conjecture statistics and push the narrative of pessimism about Kenya. If this profiling is true, and it includes Godongo types and David Ndio types, how can this Conspiracy International index be value-free? If these fellows are Raila's intellectual lapdogs, they cannot be trusted with science. No wonder Kenya has joined the corruption super leagues. But the second thing is even more revealing. How come the corruption index by Conspiracy International coincided with the Al-Shabaab attack on KDF on Friday? Is there a relationship? This coincidence of events is downright suspect.
Before we exit the corruption conversation, we need to make 2 points. One, the Raila intellectual lapdogs at Conspiracy International told us that corruption fights back. And because of this, we must be afraid. The idea here was to condition our minds into believing that corruption was a monster we cannot slay. But here is the truth. Corruption is a shy institution. It never looks you in the eye. In fact, corruption has no fist and no will, and this is why it cannot fight back. Instead, it seduces with glances and suggestions. It sends a wink that makes the knees weak. It is conniving and deceptive. But above all, corruption is a generous institution. To survive, it shares its spoils with danger. Anyone posing a threat to the institution is invited to partake of its spoils. 2. If corruption is not a drooling monster, but a sly fox, then Raila is using it to do politics. Period.
we return to the tribal leaders of opposition. Dear tribal people, we are talking to Kalonzo because he controls the Kamba vote, to Mudavadi because he might control the Luhya vote, and to Raila because he is only assured of the Luo vote. We write to you to offer advice. As you choose a candidate for the opposition, do not debate. Instead, negotiate. To debate is to exchange ignorance. To negotiate is to build Kenya. And in your negotiation, you must be guided by two principles only. 1. Consensus in negotiation is not achieved through dialogue. Consensus is achieved through dominance. The dominant man carries the day. 2. The dominant man is evaluated on the basis of his vote value. And if this is true, Mudavadi has the most votes, followed by Raila, and then Kalonzo. And when you look at the numbers, it is clear that the Luhya nation is a sleeping giant. Dear leaders of tribal mambos in opposition, here's an important political tip. In electoral politics, only the paranoid survive. That is, after many years of change, the old methods have to give way to new ones. And in this state, only the paranoid innovator survives. The rest are buried in the grave of old ideas. This moment of decisive change is called the inflection point. In mathematics, this is the most important point on this curve. Once you get there, you can either go down or soar to new heights. And this is where Raila is today. He has reached his inflection point. If his fortunes change and he goes up, you will all have to push him. And if he goes down, he will take you all down with him. The question to Kalonzo, Wetangula, and Mudavadi is therefore this. Do you want to push Raila up the inflection point? Or are you ready to go down with him? Mine is just a question.
Raila is in a weak place, in my view. He is at the inflection point. He either takes off or he goes down. There are no two ways about it. And if he is weak, Kalonzo, Wetangula, and Mudavadi should take advantage of him and isolate him. For starters, their combined vote is far much bigger than that of Raila. In fact, I think Raila is overrated. If they combine their vote, they can shut him up. And this is exactly what Kibaki did in 2002. He formed a coalition a priori with Kijana Wamalwa and Ngilu. The alliance was so strong that Raila was forced to say Kibaki Tosha at zero option. And if Kalonzo, Wetangula, and Mudavadi formed an alliance early enough and then announced a lineup, Raila would have no option but to say Kalonzo Tosha or Mudavadi Tosha, the way he did it with Kibaki, at zero option. But the magic here, I must repeat, is to first isolate him, then form a coalition a priori, and then force him to join that coalition. This idea may sound stupid, but it is the only idea in town right now. That is the only way opposition unity is going to be achieved, in my view.
If Kalonzo and Mudavadi decide to abandon Raila, would this make political sense? Would it change things? According to Gary Hamel, in his book Leading the Revolution, innovation is not as a result of calculated planning. It is not born out of research and all these fancy ideas that people dream of. Innovation is a result of the idiot servant who asks a fresh question and then gives the answer. And his answer is stupid, but different. It is drawn from what people did not observe. Yet the obvious facts, however stupid, are the source of our most perplexing answers. And this is why innovators are dreamers. They are not the bespectacled smart types or the fellow with a corporate suit. According to his theory of celebrating the stupid, Hamel argues that if people do not find your innovation stupid, it is not worth the while. In other words, if Luhya unity is not a stupid idea, it is not worth trying. But it will succeed because everyone thinks it is stupid.